Hey everyone, in this video, let's compare Magnific AI versus Stable Diffusion. In order to do so, here we are at Magnific AI. And one of the first things that you're going to find with Magnific is that you can only access it if you have a subscription. And the subscriptions are not exactly cheap. But what Magnific does is it allows you to upscale your pictures. And you can just look here through the frequently asked questions. You can see and get an idea for how Magnific works. It says here that it will transform any image of your choice into a higher resolution version, adding as much detail as you wish. You'll also be able to direct the upscaling process with the description and have access to various controls such as creativity, which will allow you to control the level of hallucinations, aka the new details that you want the AI to generate. So essentially that is what Magnific does. It's an upscaler. However, it is a arguably very decent upscaler. There is some really nice results that you can get from it, and you can go to their X account in order to see some of the results there. However, if you come to the website and you look to try to use the Magnific platform, you're not going to be able to unless you pay for that subscription. Now, let's go ahead and compare that with Stable Diffusion running on Fooocus, or Fooocus if you want to say it that way. And what I've done here is we are using the Google Colab for Fooocus. And here we have an example of an upscaling that I just did. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the original image. So you can see here, this is what we started off with. And, you know, if we get in pretty close, then you can see that some of the details are kind of blurry, and we want to see if we could try to improve that. So what then we do is bring this into the upscale or variation option here in Fooocus, and this is running Stable Diffusion. So we can go ahead and select here upscale, upscaling 2 times for this one. And so we could see here what the results are. And if we compare them to the original, then the results are pretty good. You could see here we have more of an even look, and the eyes are less blurry. And the nice thing about Fooocus is, in contrast to Magnific, it's free. Now, the downside of Fooocus is that it might take a little bit of know-how in order to gain access to it. It's not as difficult as you might think it is. Once you get the hang of it, it really is quite simple. And you can either download this directly on your machine, or you can go to their Google Colab site. And here you could see kind of what that looks like. And what we want to do is, when we first start Fooocus, there's this, right now it looks like a stop button, but when we first start, this looks like a play button. So if you click that, then it's going to start working. And then at some point, it's going to give you a link. And this is the link here. If you click on that, then that's going to open that up. And then here we have our upscaled version of the original, which is here. Now, if I'm comparing these two, and this is something that you should be aware of when you're doing upscaling, is that sometimes the results don't always come out exactly the way that you want them to. In this case, the character here looks a bit younger, and the lips are less red. There's probably less makeup in the eyes. I mean, essentially it looks like the same person, but it looks like in this one, she's maybe wearing a little bit less makeup, and maybe here about 5 years older or something like that. So that is one of the things when it comes to upscaling. Sometimes the results you get, they can be kind of iffy. And really the only way to try to mitigate that is with your prompts. So you have to be as detailed as you can with your prompts. And another thing too is, here we've only done one upscaling. One thing about upscaling is it tends to take a little bit longer than just doing like an image generation from text or something like that. But it's a good idea to have multiples that you generate so that you can compare them, because they're always going to look slightly different and some of the results are going to vary. So what you might want to do is you might want to set this to, typically speaking, what I do is I set this to 4, but you can go all the way up to 32. You can really do a lot of generations, but the issue being that it takes time to do the generations. So in this case, the results are really quite nice. Now, comparing this to Magnific, you might get better results with Magnific, but you also have the cost involved. But if you're somebody who is slightly tech savvy and you're willing to kind of go through and get an idea for how Fooocus works, again, you can run it off your machine directly, or you can use it from the Google Colab site, which is really quite handy. And once you get that going and you're familiar with how it works, I mean, it really is quite simple. It can be somewhat intimidating when you first get started, though. Now, if you see here the results here, they're really quite nice, but maybe we want to do a little bit more upscaling, so it's not quite as clear as we want it to be. Well, what you can do once you have your result is all you have to do is just pull it down, and you can bring it into your you can have it set up here, and then you can upscale it even further. Now, just be aware that when you upscale further, this can create more of a load, and so it can sometimes be rejected. And this is kind of where doing an upscale, I have found that usually using the Google Colab is a good way of doing that, because if I run it off my machine, there's only so much that I can upscale it before my computer basically says I am not going to do this. And that is going to be a little bit different for everybody's computer. I can get a certain amount of upscaling out of it, but I can get about 2K resolution before it basically just kind of locks up, and it doesn't really work as consistently as you might want it to. The other thing you are probably going to want to do if you're doing upscaling is you just want to make sure that everything is shut on your computer, because if you don't, then it's giving your computer too much to work with, and it's just you're probably not going to get to be able to actually do the upscaling. It seems to me that you can pull a little bit more out of the Google Colab, and so that's quite nice to have that option. Now, if you're somebody who you just don't want to really think about all of that and you just want to have access to the upscaling, then you can take a look at Magnific. My feeling with the Magnific is I have looked at some of the results, but when it comes to certain platforms that allow you to kind of play around with things so that you can see for yourself how it works, Magnific doesn't really offer you any additional credits, but there are definitely a lot of visuals that you can find in different places, especially on their X account. If you go there, then you'll see a lot of the different examples that have been made with Magnific, and arguably the results speak for themselves. They really are quite nice. That being said, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, there is a very good chance that you can get what you're looking for just using Stable Diffusion through Fooocus. You can use Stable Diffusion other ways as well, but this is the way that I have found works best for me. So it's what I would suggest you take a look at. And again, what we can do is pull this. We've upscaled. This is our upscaled version. We can pull it down here, and then we can click generate again. And you might want to increase the amount of images that are generated so that you can compare them and pick which one you like the best. But in this case, comparing the original to the results here, I would say that I might put here in the details red lipstick, because the original, the lipstick is much more noticeable than it is here. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're looking to try to get it as close to the original images as possible, then some of those details might be important to put in order to get the result that you're looking for. But as far as general use. If you are interested in paying the subscription fee, then by all means, try Magnific. The results are really quite great. For $55, you get around 200 normal upscales and 100 large ones per month. So that really is quite enough for most people. But if you are more hands-on and you want to learn how to use it yourself and perhaps even do it from your computer, then I would suggest taking a closer look at Fooocus or Fooocus. There's 3 O's in there, so that if you're having a hard time finding it, that might be why. It's Foocus, and you can look for that Google Colab link, and you can do it that way. Or if you're feeling adventurous, then you can actually try to install it and run it from your computer. It is a bit more advanced to do that. I have been able to do it. I do it on my machine, and I'm really happy with the results. So that is what my recommendation would be. And that's all there is to it. If you found this video helpful, please leave a comment and like and subscribe for more helpful tips.